food with Celestino just a few minutes ago. Huh? Did I call her Celestino? I clearly need more coffee. I know her name's not Celestino. Oh, that's actually kind of funny. Maybe it'll stick. Maybe I just renamed you. Celestina, last night you were Celeste. The waiter kept calling you Celeste. Did you hear him? It was hilarious. I was like, he comes out and he was like, Celeste. I'm like, we don't have a Celeste. And then he hands you food. I'm like, Celestina. All right. All right. That's yeah. You weren't facepalm at least, so that's good. Okay. We won't speak of that. Anyway, so next I want to share with you guys. So I was having a conversation with Janelle the other day. One of the perks of living in the same state as people is I see some of them a little bit more than I see others sometimes. And we were having a conversation and she was talking about when she first moved. Okay, so what happened is she used to live in Washington State, and then she moved to Wisconsin, right? And with her husband for like many months. I never knew what state she lived in. I just picked a different state every time I said it because I couldn't remember. But she moved over there, and I'm not going to tell the story for her because I don't want to steal her thunder, but we were just sitting there talking about it, and she was talking about basically her back being up against a wall and needing a lot. And I'll let her tell you the numbers and exactly what she needed. And she's telling me this whole thing, and then how she basically like killed it in 1 month and got all these things. And I said, stop for a second. That story right there, the one you just told me, and we were just kind of chatting. We weren't really like brainstorming. We were just talking. I said, that is exactly the story that everybody in the room needs to hear from you, and everybody online needs to hear from you, because they're sitting at a place where they have the 7,500 in sales or the whatever, and they desperately want to get to the next thing, and they don't know what to do to get there. So I want you to share your story, share where you're at, share the actual numbers, because this was long before this one. She was a director. Okay, she wasn't a presidential director. She was a director, barely a director, if we're being honest. And 7,500 in teams, like nothing. And if she didn't hit the next number, she didn't get her wow trip or whatever it was she was trying to earn until that part of the story. But no, I'm not. But her back was up against a wall, and she came out fighting, and she did it. And there's people on this call today that are watching there's people in this room whose back is up against a wall, and they need to come out fighting, and they don't know what to do next. So I want her to not only tell the story, but I want her to tell what she did to get there. So take it away, my dear.
All right. So this is about my first several months as a director, but I don't want you, if you're not a director, if you're a brand new consultant, I still want you to listen, because these things apply to everyone in every place of their business, always. It's literally about having a goal and working toward it and figuring out how to achieve it. So these rules apply no matter where you're at in your business. So yes, we had moved out to Wisconsin. I had just stepped up to director in July. I took notes because I would forget all the numbers and the dates. It was July of 2014, stepped up to director. And so August was my first month as director, and we moved out one of the first days of September. We moved to Wisconsin. And my husband is amazing. He is a huge supporter of me and my business. But back then, he was always terrified that Tupperware was going to take too much priority over our lives, my other priorities, and the children. And he was a youth pastor, and I did like all the ministry with him. So like that was really busy, and he was really worried that Tupperware was going to, because it was fun and I did it a lot because I loved it. And there's always more that you can do in your business. So he was always worried that Tupperware was going to take up too much of the priority slot, and everything else that is a priority for me and for him and our family would like fall by the wayside. So he said, Tupperware can't be the first or even the second priority as we're moving our family with our little kids. David was like just over a year old, across the country. He was like, it can't be first priority. It can't even be second priority. It has to be like 17th priority. I was like, in my logical brain, I was like, what are the other priorities? What's 1 through 16? That's ridiculous. And it wasn't 17th, but his point was it had to be on the back burner. And I was like, I just stepped up to director. I worked hard for that, and I don't want to lose that. And it was really, really, really hard because we only had home parties back then. If it was Facebook parties, it would have been so much easier, but home parties just made it really hard to go to a place and I didn't know anybody pretty much. And start up a home business with a bunch of people I didn't know, and not even having like my online, I didn't have online connections because we didn't do online back then. So I was like brainstorming. Yep. Is this good? Is this good? All right. Is this, sorry. So I was brainstorming, like I did things I didn't want to do, like handing catalogs to people in the grocery store and asking them to put their email address on a sticky note. Like I died every time. I was like, would not let myself leave the store until I did 3. And it took a while sometimes because I'd be like, I don't want to do this. I can talk to her. No, I don't want to talk to her. It was fun. It was great. But I stepped out of my comfort zone and I tried a bunch of things. So because of all my pushing and all my creativity of trying new things and pushing past those, I was able to maintain my director title through those first few months, but like barely. I hit in my first 5 months as a director, I only hit the minimum then was 10,000. I only hit it twice in the first 5 months. And that was really hard and really discouraging. And I was trying so hard and I was like going out and meeting new people. And I was asking everybody if they'd host a party because like, I just knew I had to in order to make it work. But then I get to I hit month close on the end of the 5th month. I had 1 month left. All of a sudden I was like, wait, there was that new director trip and it's in the first 6 months and you can earn it earlier, but I sure was not earning it earlier because it was like barely hitting my minimums. And all of a sudden I realized this is now or never to earn my trip to Hawaii. And my husband had never been on a tropical vacation. And ever since I joined Tupperware and I knew I could earn a trip to Hawaii, I knew that's what I wanted to do for him. And all of a sudden I realized it's now or never. Like this is the time. And obviously we know we can earn another one later, but I wasn't going to waste all that time that I'd put into getting to the 6th month just to lose it. So I decided to just, like Kirsten said, my back was against the wall. It was like, I have to dig in now or I'm losing this. And I wasn't okay losing this. But I had just barely managed to get to the minimum at the time was 7,500. I barely managed to get to the 7,500 in that 5th month to stay in the program. And I needed 16,000. I needed 16,000 sales. And I was like, how am I going to do that when I'm barely hitting 7,500? All my team members were back in Washington and they had all pretty much stopped because I left and it was really hard to keep contact. We didn't have online meetings back then because we didn't need to. Like there weren't people far away. So it was so hard to keep all that going. It was a very discouraging place to be at. But instead of just letting it go and giving up, I decided to dig in harder than I'd ever dug in before. And I had just done my first Facebook party. It was actually Christmas. It was Christmas Day. Why not, right? I did my first Facebook party ever, Christmas Day. And here we are, the first day of the January sales month. So probably like 3 days later, right? And I was like, all right, I'm just going to start messaging through my friend list and tell them about this new party and see if they will host one. I ended up hosting 50 parties in January, which, well, more than that, because I was still doing home parties too. I did 50 online parties and I did a bunch of home parties as well. And it was crazy because I didn't know what I was doing. I had just done the first party. And when I look back at what I did at those, like, it's so embarrassing. Like we've come so far. It was so bad. And how I kept track of things was so bad. It was awful. It was like in a notepad on my computer and I just listed out. It was so bad. But I knew I needed to do 16,000 sales and I knew I was going to be the main person doing that. So I was like, I just have to do everything. I also needed 4 managers because I had no managers. So I needed 4 new managers out of thin air. I didn't have any team members that cared about anything, let alone stepping up to manager. So I had to get them to care for me. And I usually don't say, hey, I need you to do this for me. But this time I did that because I was desperate. And I was like, you're going to get a bunch of things too. And I've got this stuff where I can give you, but like, I really need this. Will you try? So I had 4 people that decided to dig in and try for me. And I bribed them a lot. Yes. But they decided to dig in and try for me. And that's something that you can do at any level in your business. When you really need something, you can tell your friends, you can tell your customers and your hosts, I really need this. It's going to help you too, but it's really going to help me. Is this something that you're willing to work on with me? And those gals, they dug in, they did the parties. I ran their first party for them to show them how, and then they started doing parties. And 2 of them said, I don't want to be a manager. I'm not going to do anything after this month, but I will do this for you. I'm going to come back to that later. But that was what they were in for. They were like, I'm just going to, one of it was my sister-in-law, and like they weren't planning on doing anything other than just trying to help me. But you know, pretty little liars. And then, so what we ended up doing, I told you I needed 16,000 sales and 4 new managers. I ended the month with 20,000, just shy of 20,000, and the 4 managers I needed. And one of them, I think, was literally like, I think I hit click at midnight, and I'm amazed it went through, and it did. And I earned the trip, and it was just so empowering and so exciting and so phenomenal. I didn't know that I could accomplish those things before. So what that did for my mindset of what I can do moving forward, that was huge. And I want all of you to have that experience. I want all of you to shock yourselves on what you can accomplish. Push your goal higher than you think you can accomplish and see what happens. If you hit that goal, you're going to be shocked, and you're going to have so much more confidence in what you can do moving forward. If you don't hit the goal, but you tried, you're going to do better than you had, or better than you would have if you hadn't set the goal. So it's always, always good to set a high goal. All right, the next month, that was January of 2015. February, so I did 20,000, just shy of 20,000 in January, and got those 4 new managers. In February, I backed way off. In January, I sold over 10,000 personally. It was crazy, but I couldn't keep doing that. Like, with not having gotten a good system for the parties, that was so hard for me, so overwhelming. In February, I backed way off. I don't remember how much I did in sales, but it was way less. But my team did 23,000. That means my team started doing the parties, which I hadn't seen in 6 months. So that was really exciting. So my team was picking up and doing things. All of those 4 managers, they didn't stop. Like 2 of them told me they would. They didn't stop. They all sold more than they had in January. They all were doing better. They were all growing. They were recruiting new people. It was amazing. And then in March, the team hit 28,000. And then I had some of those managers wanting to step up to director. It was crazy to see all this happen, to see the snowball that I started just growing and building and growing as it went along. And like I told you, I backed way off. I did not push as hard in January as I did in February and March. I couldn't, for my own sanity. I was working so much. I was so tired. So I did back off a bit. I would probably put a little less time into so many parties and a little more time into like helping those team members. So it's probably doing roughly the same amount of work, but it was not the exhausting of like, I'm doing this all by myself, you know, that. Then I had my team excited, my team coming along and doing it too. It was just such a thrilling, exciting thing. And the number that I hit by the end of the year, like I never thought that was possible, what we ended up accomplishing. And then the beginning of the first year, I had promoted my first director. And it was so exciting to see it all happen, because when I look back, when it was happening, I just thought, my back's against the wall. I'm doing it because I'm desperate, and I'm just going to try to do all the things, because what else? I don't want to lose a trip, right? And when I look back on it, I'm like, that's what started me on my path to presidential director. Because if I hadn't dug in really hard and pushed really hard then, I would have lost my director title. It would have gone away. I wanted a trip, and that's what got me to where I am today. So I really want you guys to see the power of digging in, working your business, booking more parties, doing more than you think you can, talking to people about joining you in that, whether it's to help them because you see their need, or to help you because you have a goal or something you're trying to earn. Talk to your people. If you have team members already, talk to them about stepping up to manager. Talk to them about bringing in new people and encouraging them to grow and build. Have those conversations that you think people aren't going to want to have with you, because you never know. And like we already said here today, the worst that they can do is say no. And then you just come at it from a different angle. But like, just try, just put yourself out there and try. Set goals, work every day at them, even if it's just a little bit. Even on a bad day, I make sure I do at least a few things for my business just to keep things moving. Because one day where you are, you're having a day or your kids are having a day or whatever's going on, and you decide not to work your business, that easily turns into 2 and 3 days and a week and 2 weeks and a month. And then you've lost the momentum and progression that you had. So set yourself little goals, at least of the minimum you're going to do each day, that will help you toward your goal. Take your goal, break it down, and figure out your bare minimum of what you're going to do each day. And the beauty of that is it's going to help you do the next thing. Because if you don't do anything, it's really easy to keep doing nothing. But if you start with the little goal and you start with a little task of, I'm going to maybe just message 10 people, I'm going to work before I even get out of bed. I'm going to pull out my phone and I'm going to message 10 people about hosting a party with me. And then you get up and you're getting breakfast and you're taking out the garbage, whatever you're doing in the day. And then you check your phone and some people have responded. Well, then you're going to respond back to them. It pulls you back into the work. And then try to send another 10. Maybe none of those 10 responded. Go back to your phone and send another 10. You already have it ready to copy paste. It's super easy. Just keep going through your friends list or your VIP group list and just send another 10. But once you do that first step, it's so much easier to take the next step and keep going and going and going. So take your goal, really want it, really see it as a possibility and a reality that you can achieve, and then break it down into what you can do each day. And push yourself to do things that you didn't want to do. Things that push you outside of your comfort zone, but you know that if you do them, it might make the difference. Hosting and buy-sell trade groups is a really good example of that. I know a lot of you have never done that and you don't want to do that. And you're sitting there thinking, yeah, I still don't want to do it, Janelle. But it has exploded my business so many times. Do I like doing it? No. I don't like posting in buy-sell trade groups. I don't. But I'm amazed at the results I get. And sometimes I don't get results. And then I have to post in more and then I get results. You just have to post in enough groups and eventually you get the results. So do I like doing it? No. Is it outside my comfort zone? Yes. But I know that it's one of the things that I can do to really grow and build my business. So all of us have those things. All of those have those things that we don't want to do, but we know is what we should try. Or maybe you tried it once and you're like, Janelle, it didn't work for me. Try it again. It's not you. It's wording and images that we're all using. It's not you. It's the group. So you have to find a new group. Kind of like a relationship. You're not going to have a successful marriage with everybody out there. You have to find the right one, right? You have to find the right groups. The right groups are out there. You just have to keep trying until you find the right group. All right, Kirsten. All done. Oh, now I have to go read all the
I know. Now Janelle's like, now I have to go read all the messages. I told her that I was reading to her Danielle's message in the chat. But anyway, it's all good. It's all good. We got this, Danielle. All right. Just because you're having a rough day or a rough month doesn't mean you can't turn it around. Because I promise you, this whole room, no matter what title they have, I promise you, everybody in here has a turn it around story. I promise you. I promise you. They did not, it's just not always too smooth sailing. And sometimes you got to get out of your own way. Just saying. Got to remember. You also got to remember that it doesn't stop if you don't. And I think that's such a huge thing to remember. People forget that. And I go back to my team stopped working and I say, how many parties do you have? Well, I have one. Well, let's go back to the basics. Let's book parties. Let's get recruits. Let's rebuild. Because when you rebuild, your team rebuilds. That's how it works. And new refreshes old. That's just the way that it is. Okay. So thank you. Thank you, Janelle, for sharing that story. Hopefully those of you that needed to hear it, heard it. That spoke to me. Yeah, it's always speaks to me. Okay. So it's time for a moment that matters.